Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving deep into a shocking reality that's unfolding across Russia's battlefield. The once feared Russian military machine is breaking down from the inside out. What was once a symbol of power and pride has become a chaotic web of failure, corruption, and desperation. From ancient bombs being dropped on the front lines to soldiers refusing to fight, the cracks in Russia's war effort are no longer possible to hide. This is the story of a superpower's army falling apart before the world's eyes. In the beginning of the invasion, Moscow promised overwhelming strength, modern weapons, and swift victories, but nearly 3 years later, those promises have turned into nightmares. Soldiers are fighting not with cutting-edge weapons but with bombs and shells that were manufactured before their grandparents were born. Reports have surfaced of Russian forces using 80-year-old bombs, some dating back to World War II, because their ammunition stockpiles have been depleted. These old munitions are unstable, inaccurate, and incredibly dangerous even to the soldiers who handle them. The desperation has reached a level where the army is forced to use whatever it can find in storage, regardless of the risk. Inside the ranks, morale is collapsing. Videos from the front lines show Russian soldiers complaining about lack of food, broken equipment, and impossible orders. Many of them haven't been paid in months. Others say they were promised leave that never came. The leadership treats them like disposable tools rather than human beings. When soldiers try to speak out, they're threatened or sent on suicidal missions as punishment. Fear and resentment now define the daily life of many troops. At the same time, the Russian command structure is a mess. Generals are replaced or arrested every few months as blame gets thrown around like a game of survival. Nobody trusts anyone anymore. Intelligence leaks, corruption scandals, and paranoia are spreading faster than any victory news. Entire brigades have been wiped out due to poor planning and outdated tactics. While Ukraine continues to innovate with Western technology and creative strategy, Russian commanders are still relying on Soviet-era methods that simply don't work in modern warfare. One of the most shocking revelations is how Russia's weapons industry can't keep up with the demands of the war. Sanctions have cut off access to high-tech components, especially semiconductors and precision chips needed for missiles and drones. What's left are old factories trying to mass-produce low-quality replacements. The result is weapons that malfunction, tanks that break down after a few kilometers, and drones that can't compete with Ukrainian ones. Many Russian soldiers have been filmed using duct tape to hold armor plates together or scavenging enemy gear just to survive. Meanwhile, the psychological strain on the soldiers has become unbearable. Reports from captured Russian troops reveal widespread drug and alcohol abuse among units. Some drink to escape the fear, others take stimulants to stay awake during endless artillery bombardments. Mental breakdowns are common and desertions are rising. Soldiers are running away from the front lines or even turning themselves over to Ukrainian forces just to survive. For a military that once claimed to be the second most powerful in the world, this collapse in discipline and morale is devastating. Back home, the situation is no better. Russian families are losing faith in the government's promises. Coffins are returning to small towns every week, but official reports still deny the scale of losses. Mothers and wives of soldiers are organizing protests, demanding answers about their missing loved ones. These protests, though small, are spreading online, showing that the Kremlin's control over public opinion is weakening. State propaganda still tries to paint a picture of heroism and progress, but the truth is leaking through videos, testimonies, and even hacked military documents. Corruption, always a deep-rooted issue in Russia, has become deadly on the battlefield. Officers are stealing supplies, selling fuel meant for tanks, and taking bribes to avoid deployment. Some local commanders are accused of faking battle reports to claim bonuses or hide failures. This corruption reaches all the way up to the Ministry of Defense. Billions of rubles meant for modernizing the army have simply vanished. The result is a hollow force, huge on paper, weak in reality. On the front lines, Russian soldiers describe horrifying conditions. They live in mud-filled trenches surrounded by rats with little medical support. When injured, many die waiting for evacuation because their units have no working vehicles. The communication lines are broken, and outdated radios make coordination almost impossible. Artillery often fires blindly, missing targets and wasting ammunition. Some shells even explode inside their own launchers. The soldiers feel abandoned, fighting for unclear goals, while their leaders sit in safety miles away from the front. Perhaps the most tragic part of this story is that many young men are being forced into this chaos through conscription. Since the start of the mobilization, thousands of inexperienced civilians have been thrown into combat with minimal training. Many don't even know how to use their weapons properly. They're promised new gear but end up with rusty rifles and torn uniforms. The videos of these recruits being sent to the front lines have gone viral. Frightened faces, shaking hands, and desperate voices saying goodbye to their families. It's not bravery driving them anymore. It's fear and hopelessness. Meanwhile, Ukraine's advances have exposed just how unprepared Russia really is. In many areas, Russian units have simply abandoned their positions, leaving behind equipment and even bodies. Satellite images show burned-out tanks, destroyed convoys, and trenches filled with debris. Ukrainian drones record the chaos daily, revealing how the so-called mighty Russian army is struggling just to hold the line. The Russian strategy has turned into a brutal cycle. Throw more men into the grinder, regardless of the cost. The desperation is pushing the Kremlin toward using older and riskier weapons. Those 80-year-old bombs, often stored since World War II, were never meant to be used again. Many are unstable, lacking precision, and can detonate during transport. Some have even exploded on Russian soil before reaching the battlefield, yet due to shortages of modern bombs and precision munitions, they are being dropped from outdated aircraft onto Ukrainian positions. It's a horrifying reflection of how stretched Russia's logistics have become. Experts have warned that this reliance on ancient stockpiles could cause a chain reaction of disasters. The Soviet-era bombs were stored in decaying warehouses with unstable chemicals that make them unpredictable. Handling them is like holding a ticking time bomb, but commanders, desperate to maintain artillery fire, are ordering their use anyway. The consequences are deadly, not only for Ukrainian targets but also for Russian pilots and soldiers. It's another sign of a military trapped by its own failures. What's even more alarming is how this chaos is reshaping Russia's reputation worldwide. Once seen as a military powerhouse capable of challenging NATO, Russia is now viewed as a cautionary tale of overconfidence and corruption. Its closest allies, like China and North Korea, may offer limited help, but even they know that Moscow is bleeding resources faster than it can replace them. Each failed offensive, each destroyed convoy, each video of complaining soldiers erodes the myth of Russian strength that the Kremlin worked decades to build. Inside the Kremlin, paranoia is at an all-time high. Putin's inner circle has shrunk as he grows increasingly distrustful of his own generals and intelligence officers. Recent purges within the defense ministry have revealed how deep the rot goes. Some high-ranking officials have been arrested for embezzlement, others quietly dismissed or disappeared. Putin blames them for failures, but many believe the problem starts with him. His obsession with controlling every detail has crippled the army's ability to adapt. Commanders are afraid to make decisions without direct approval, leading to disastrous delays on the battlefield. Economically, the war is draining Russia's future. The defense budget has skyrocketed, consuming money that could have been used for schools, hospitals, and infrastructure. Sanctions have crippled imports and caused inflation to soar. Factories are struggling to find materials, and the ruble has lost much of its value. Even though the government tries to present a picture of stability, ordinary Russians are feeling the pressure. The longer the war drags on, the weaker the entire system becomes. The psychological toll on the Russian public is immense. Propaganda tells them they're fighting NATO, not Ukraine, trying to justify endless sacrifices. But people are starting to question the lies. Young men are fleeing the country to avoid being drafted. The population is aging, and the economy is shrinking. Russia is slowly isolating itself from the modern world, clinging to nostalgia for Soviet power that no longer exists. The dream of restoring past glory has turned into a nightmare of destruction. Meanwhile, Ukraine's resilience continues to grow. Western aid, advanced drones, and smart tactics are making a massive difference. Each Russian failure strengthens Ukraine's resolve and weakens Moscow's narrative. Ukrainian soldiers are motivated, trained, and supported by a unified population that believes in victory. Russia, on the other hand, is fighting a war that many of its own citizens no longer understand or support. This contrast is defining the outcome of the conflict more than any number of tanks or missiles ever could. As the winter approaches again, Russia's logistical nightmare is getting worse. Fuel shortages, poor infrastructure, and broken supply lines mean many units will face freezing temperatures without proper shelter or equipment. Soldiers will once again rely on burning trash or even vehicle fuel to stay warm. The war of endurance is becoming a test that Russia is not equipped to win. History shows that armies fall not just because of enemies, but because of their own corruption and incompetence. That's exactly what's happening here. What's left of Russia's military power is being held together by propaganda and fear. The Kremlin continues to boast about victories that never happened, showing staged footage on state television. But the truth is that every month more evidence surfaces of a military in total disarray. The world can see it, and even many inside Russia know it too. When the war eventually ends, rebuilding the army and the nation's trust in its leaders will take decades if it ever happens at all. In the end, Russia's downfall is not just about old bombs or broken tanks. It's about a system built on lies, greed, and blind obedience. It's the story of a powerful nation that forgot how to listen to truth and now pays the price on the battlefield. The chaos, the fear, the waste of human life, all of it could have been avoided. But when power matters more than people, collapse becomes inevitable. So as the world watches, Russia's military continues to crumble piece by piece. The frontline madness grows worse each day, and the desperate use of ancient weapons only highlights the decay. The empire that once terrified the world is now terrified of itself, and as history often reminds us, when fear replaces pride, the fall is only a matter of time. That's all for today's deep look into the crumbling state of Russia's military. If you found this analysis eye-opening, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more updates on the latest global developments. Stay tuned, stay informed, and as always, thank you for watching.